Hey kids, hope you had a good Turkey Day. I have just about recovered from all the terrible things I did to myself over the holiday, and now I'm back and ready to talk about the Alien franchise. I think I'm going to have to split this essay up into two parts because I just have too much to say about the original Alien. Like Halloween, Alien is in my top three all-time favorite horror films. And also, like Halloween, Alien went a long way, I think, in establishing the uh, the tropes that would be part of the slasher film boom of the 1980s. Clearly, there was something in the air in the 70s. You know, I can't really explain it, but culturally, collectively, unconsciously, there was something going on, and it may have started with Black Christmas. And if you want to go all the way back to Psycho, I wouldn't argue with that. But I'm going to start at Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's kind of where all this stuff started, and we apparently just couldn't get enough of this kind of subject matter. And in 1978, Halloween came out, I believe, while Alien was in production. So, interestingly, Halloween could not have been an actual influence on Alien. Ridley Scott did overtly say that Texas Chainsaw was an influence. He watched it heavily in pre-production, and out of all of the kind of sci-fi horror films that he was watching to try and prepare, Texas Chainsaw was the only one that he took away with him when it came time to make Alien. Um, but also, uh, in the way that Halloween accidentally kind of established a template that would be, you know, rushed forward with by Friday the 13th in 1980, which is really the first official slasher film. Um, Alien kind of accidentally ticks off every box on that slasher film list, from the naive group of babes in the woods who were in an isolated environment, cut off from any kind of outside help, dark and foreboding environment, with a very pervasively dreadful sexual vibe going on. Um, it's one of my favorite pastimes to try and find Jungian subtext and symbolism in horror films. But like most body horror films and like most slasher films, Alien is at least 95% Freudian, and I acknowledge that. It's totally cool. Um, these movies are definitely about a fear of sex, a fear of the darker consequences of sex, fear of childbirth. Oh my gosh! So we have this group of people in this barren environment, and the derelict spacecraft that's crash landed on LV-426 could easily be the Bates Mansion or the Texas Chainsaw Farmhouse, um, or the Myers house, and the slut character of our little group takes a couple of reluctant crew members along with him, and ignores the warning of the space jockey, the dead fossilized space jockey, who really here stands in for that harbinger archetype that was embodied by Dr. Loomis in Halloween and Crazy Ralph in Friday the 13th. He's not alive, so he can't tell, the astronauts, "You're doomed!" But the big fucking hole in his chest should be information enough for them. But no, they ignore it. Kane the Slut says, "No, we have to go on, we have to go on." And he's the first one to get down that fucking hole, down that giant vagina, into the giant womb underneath the spaceship. And there's a great inversion here of human sexuality. We've got like one sperm who penetrates the egg chamber, and there are millions of eggs. And inside one of those eggs, of course, is a very sperm-like creature who impregnates Kane, who is male and, in human terms, not capable of getting pregnant. But he does give birth to what will become basically an 11-foot tall walking Chinese puzzle box of predatory genitalia. I mean, the head looks like a giant cock, and there's like a hidden mouth inside the mouth, a little vagina dentata action going on there. The tail, the tail and Veronica Cartwright have a very special relationship at the end of this movie. No further comment there. And the xenomorph is very much a Michael Myers, what I call a vampire archetype. Violent by nature, There's no way that this creature can be redeemed or civilized because it is what this creature is, a physical embodiment of violence. Its life cycle was violent, its reproductive cycle was violent. The very lifeblood that flows through its veins is corrosive acid. And of course, in the character of Ripley, we have the ultimate final girl archetype. What a badass. Holy fucking shit. Much like Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, these were two unknown players at the time who captured the attention of the world with their performances and went on to do sequel after sequel and rose to greater and greater positions of power with every sequel. And here's where, you know, like, things get really interesting and where I think Jungianism kind of upsets the Freudian subtext of this film. Interestingly enough, Dan O'Bannon originally wrote all these characters to be unisex, so to make casting easier, basically. And I believe it was always assumed that the final survivor character was going to be a man. It was a late in the game decision to make it a woman, and naming the character Ripley I think is very interesting. The name is so close to Ridley that I can't help but think of her as an anima figure for Ridley Scott. And I'm going to stubbornly hold on to that belief, no matter what you tell me. So there's that. Here's where things get a little complicated for me, because I'm a writer, and I believe in respecting the rights of the writer and the authorship of the writer. Obviously, no one person makes a movie, but I have to say, I think the authorship of the original Alien belongs to Ridley Scott and H.R. Giger much more than it belongs to Dan O'Bannon. O'Bannon originally wrote Alien as a possible script to be made by, like, Roger Corman, and the first draft definitely feels like that. David Giler and Walter Hill were really kind of shitty to Dan O'Bannon, but I also believe that they were correct in rewriting him, and I believe that the script was better for having been rewritten. A lot of the choices that were made down the road, particularly casting Sigourney Weaver as the final survivor. So I'm sorry, Dan O'Bannon. Even though it was Dan O'Bannon's idea to bring H.R. Giger on board, so we still have to give him a lot of credit. But you know, Giger's world before Alien was already established as this very alien, biomechanical, androgynous, hermaphroditic universe that kind of existed in this weird intersection of the Freudian sex drive and death drive. So, yeah, this movie is almost, you know, human characters who accidentally stumble into an H.R. Giger painting. That's really what it is at the end of the day. You know, this lifestyle is fine for non-human creatures, but for humans, oh, it's just not a good idea. And it's this clash of cultures where the horror happens in Alien. Whew. So, gonna stop there before I lose steam again, and I'll pick this video up again talking about Aliens. I feel like I have a lot to say about that one, just because my opinion of it is highly unpopular, and I feel like I have to do a little more work to defend it. So I'll see you again, maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight. We'll see how I feel.